true joy. So today I'm going to talk about fearless spirit. Anybody have one? Right, we all have one, right? I love that one person's like, yes, I do. And everyone else is like, am I supposed to raise my hand? I'm not sure. Right? Was I fearless enough? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. That's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about fear. We're going to talk about God. We're going to talk about spirit. Because in the Bible, you know, the phrase that's been repeated over 365 times is do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. And I actually thought I was never afraid. I mean, if you would have asked me when I was your age or when I was your age, if somebody said, you're afraid, Rhonda, I'd be like, I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. If you would have said to me, what are you scared of? I'd be like, I'm not scared of anything. But I was petrified. But I had no ability to actually identify fear, see fear. I didn't even know what it was. It was just a concept out there. And because I wasn't walking around going, right, because I wasn't literally afraid with every, cell in my being, I didn't think I was. And it was only until I was willing to actually claim my fear that I was able to be free. That God was able to use me, because otherwise it kept on getting thwarted. I kept getting thwarted. God through me kept getting thwarted. Because my fear would convince me otherwise. That's not, God didn't mean that. God doesn't, he must have mistaken me for somebody else. That's so cute, God. Right? So I want to give you a little test right now. A little quiz, a little survey to find out if you have any fear. Everybody up for it? Excellent. Oh, I love this enthusiasm. Right? You're right with me? Yes. Okay, so I'm going to allow you to give you some freedom. Go ahead and shut your eyes right now. Go ahead and shut your eyes so nobody's going to see you, right? You're going to shut your eyes, and you on live stream and YouTube and Facebook, go ahead and shut your eyes. Shut your eyes. And go ahead and just nod your head right now. I just want to make sure that your head nods so that you can actually be truthful with yourself. Dawn, you're not nodding your head. I see you. Got to nod your head, Dana. Nod that head, right? We're going to nod our head. And now, what do you think the reason is that I want you to nod your head? I want you to actually claim that these things that you experience these things. Not to make them, seep into your cells, but so you can actually see them. So go ahead and shut those eyes of yours. And if you have your eyes open, you are a control freak. So do you ever nod your head if it's a yes? If you do any of these things or feel any of these things, if you do any of these things or feel anything, feel any of these things, you're going to nod your head. So do you ever deny yourself? Do you ever isolate? Do you ever pretend things are better than they are? Do you ever hide? Do you ever compare yourself with others? Do you ever settle? Do you ever secretly whine? Do you judge? Get defensive? Secretly manipulate? Do you find yourself complaining? So how about feeling like you're suffering? Do you ever wait and call it patience? Do you procrastinate? Do you worry? Do you blame? Do you control? Do you ever feel bitter? Powerless? Get a little self-centered? Get resentful? Feel a little entitled? How about guilty? Disappointed in yourself or others? Get caught in perfectionism? What about irritated? Like now, perhaps? Ever feel overwhelmed, ignored, victimized, annoyed, or get caught in self-pity? Go ahead and open your eyes. Anybody need a chiropractor? Yeah. So did anybody nod their head on some of these words? How many people, if you're willing, just to give a little, maybe like had over 50% nodding? Yeah. How much are brave enough to say they had over 70% nodding? Yeah, thank you. See, I've spoken to audiences all over the world. Give this little survey all over the world. Audiences to 10, audiences to 2,000. And on average, most people have over 80%. And I would say a greater percent has over 95. See, I don't know about you, but I thought these were character flaws. See, I thought procrastination was bad, and I was weak, and there was something wrong with me, and I was just resisting God moving through me. There was something wrong with me. Or if I got overwhelmed, I thought, why can't I get centered? Why am I not centered? Why am I overwhelmed? Why am I anxious? Well, God is good. God, I want to lean on God. I want to be centered. Right? And so it was always my fault. I was the one that wasn't surrendered enough. I was the problem. What's wrong with me that I can't get this? God, I come to church every Sunday. I do my meditations every morning. I practice, but yet I find myself overwhelmed and worrying and anxious and procrastinating. I must be afraid of the bigness of God moving through me. Yes, that might be it. But being human and being here today is all about saying yes to the most scary parts of our lives. Because in order to be used, in order to be served, in order to serve, you must be facing fear on a regular basis. Not because you don't feel centered. You can feel centered absolutely inside and know with complete clarity what you're meant to do. But as a human being, we step out. I know I'm supposed to do this. Stay clear, stay centered. Oh. But you take that step out, even though you feel clear, even though you know, even though you're really clear, and you feel confident, and you know it, but that step feels like a mile. Anybody ever experienced this? So I don't know about you, but that step, I always blamed myself for. I always judged myself for, or I doubted myself. Maybe because maybe I'm not supposed to, maybe I'm not. Maybe it's egotistical for me to think I was supposed to do that. Maybe I'm not. And I was always playing this game with is this God or is this God? Am I supposed to do this or am I supposed to do that? Wait a minute, if I want to serve God fully and completely, and if I want to do God's bidding, if I want to truly own my light, if I want to live in the light of God, then I've got to listen really good. But my listening had a lot of confusion in it. Is that true for anybody else, or am I the only one here? Yeah. So that's what I want to talk about today. I want to give us a little clarity about how you know the difference between the voice of God and the voice of fear. I want to talk a little bit about the brain, tell you a little bit about my story, and then I want to give you, because I am a coach and a spiritual practitioner, probably going to give you an assignment. Because we must practice, right? Just as we meditate, just as we practice our meditation, just as we practice letting those thoughts move through us, and knowing that we are not our thoughts, literally knowing we are not our thoughts when we're meditating. But we forget that when we're in the human world. We forget that we are not our thoughts. We forget that we are not our feelings. We forget that. I know I do. It's easy to forget that maybe you shouldn't do that. It's just a thought. It is not me. So I want to tell you a little bit about the brain. And maybe some of you already know all this, and if you do, then just look at me with loving eyes so that you encourage me to keep going. But we have this thing called the brain, right? And in actuality, our brain is wired for fear. We're actually wired for fear. We're actually wired for safety. We're actually wired to judge. So I want you to think for a minute that, and I know this isn't literally true, but for the sake of this conversation, let's just imagine we have 100 units of energy a day. That's all we have. We have 100 units of energy a day. 100 units. And so the brain actually is wired to judge in order to conserve energy. If I can put you in a box, if I can just say no to it, that I don't have to grow and change, because anytime I have a new thought, anytime that I have to break through, that takes energy. And if you haven't been drinking your water and getting your sleep and eating well, you'll have less energy. Right? You have less energy. And then that thing that's moving through you that you want to express, and then that thought comes through like, well, maybe you shouldn't, feels really true. Feels really true. And in that moment of confusion, so the first thing I want you to hear is that fear, the way our brain works, in order to conserve energy, The brain is actually wired to judge, to put everybody in a box so I don't have to think. I don't have to decide. I don't have to determine. So in order to not do that, we actually have to use our energy. We have to make a concentrated effort, because if we're on automatic pilot, we'll actually do that automatically. To save energy, to stay safe. The other thing I want you to know about the brain is that the brain doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. Now, we use that to manifest, right? We use that power to manifest. We know that there's no difference between our imagination and reality. We know that. But if you're like me, this human thing, I also get confused about that at times. Well, wait a minute, is this, and I call it a character flaw. There's something wrong with me. I must not feel worthy. I must not feel good enough. There must be something going on with me. Why don't I feel like I have the right? I have students and clients, and they've been lately talking. We're actually, this month, we have a theme every month in my classes, and this month is worth. How to get over the fear of not being good enough, to know your worth no matter what. And some of my students have been coming up to me like, I just don't feel like I have worth. And this is what I've been saying to them. Bullshit. I go, what if you could never say that again? What if you could no longer court that lie ever again? What if you could no longer decide how you feel? I don't feel worthy. Decide who you're going to be, how you're going to show up, and how God's going to use you. What if you knew that lie, I don't have worth, that you actually knew it was a lie, like really knew it was a lie? Not know it intellectually, or when you come here and you get centered, you're like, I know it's not a lie. But then you go out and you ask your boss for a raise, or want to but can't. Or you want to date somebody or not date somebody, get divorced, get a new job, open your business, and you find yourself with this enthusiasm and you want to do it, and then you stop. See, another thing the brain does, this is the last thing I'll talk about the brain, there's so much more to share, but this is the last thing I'll share today, is that when you're about to make a decision, when you have a problem in the present moment, right here, problem in the present moment, right now, anybody got a problem going on in their life? Yeah, most of us have something going on, right? We're active, we're alive. That's where we find our edge, right? That's where we get to break out, where we get to decide if God's going to be in charge or fear's going to be in charge. And that happens second by second, right? Second by second. 1 minute, we're like, yeah! Next minute, we're like, no! And then you go, I'm going to do it, really! And then you're like, oh, maybe not. So you got a problem in the moment. You got a problem right now. The brain is wired. This is how it is wired. I want you to hear this. This is not you being wrong or bad or stupid or unworthy. The brain is wired to look in the past to find a solution for the present problem. The brain is wired to look in the past for a solution to the present problem. Makes sense, right? But how often does a past solution fit into the present and actually help you create something new? So the past, because of course in order to keep us safe, right? Remember, we're only here, fear wants us to keep us safe. That's the only goal. Fear wants to keep you safe. What does fear want to do? Keep you alive. And it says, well, gee, Rhonda's alive right now, so I must be really doing a good job. So if I have her do this thing again, repeat this problem, repeat this solution, repeat this thing, she's going to stay alive. She's going to stay alive. Wow, I got to get her to do that again. Anybody ever feel like they're repeating, are you kidding me? I'm doing this again? Anybody feel that way? Like, are you joking? And you feel like you've really healed it. You're like, oh, I have healed it. It'll never happen again. It's like, are you kidding me? Are you joking? No, actually not. Because remember, the brain is wired for a problem in the present to go back in your past, grab a solution, and bring it into the present. But then you're trying to what? Put a round peg in a square hole, right? You're trying to fix it, make it work. And then, of course, you're repeating a problem that you've experienced in the past, and you think there's something wrong with you. You think, if you're like me, what's my problem? Why am I weak? What's my problem? What is wrong with me? Why do I keep on experiencing the same thing? Well, this is what I want you to hear. And I know Victoria talks about this all the time. There is nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. You just got seduced by fear. Why? Because you're human. And we're not taught about fear. We might read a book about the brain. But when you read a neuroscience book, even if it's for the lay people, it doesn't actually tell you how it works and how to solve it. It tells you about the brain, but it doesn't tell you what to do. One of the reasons that I do what I do today, I do a thing called fearless living, is I never knew what to do. I knew there was something wrong with me, right? Duh. But I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how do I be? And I tried everything. I went to practitioner training. I actually kept going to ministerial school. I went to inner child. You name it, I've done it. But it would never take away the feeling that there was something wrong with me until I saw fear for what it was, until I quit making it a character flaw, until I quit making overwhelm and anxiety and procrastination and perfectionism, comparing a character flaw. Something wrong with me. What's my problem? Why can't I be more disciplined? Why can't I be more consistent? Why can't I be better, more different than I am? The minute I was able to see fear for what it was, everything fell away. And I could hear. And I could see. And I could act. But I don't know where you grew up. I grew up in a little tiny town in Upper Michigan, and I was taught, it's all your fault. Why'd you do that? All your fault. Anybody else grow up kind of like that? Oh, I hope that all these people not raising their hand were not raised like that. That would be amazing. It's like, oh my God, you were raised. Like when I see people with two loving parents, I'm like, really? That exists? Like, how did you, what? You got the lottery. And then do you know what those people do? Come up to me when they've had this incredible life, be loved by their parents, had everything they need, just been nurtured and supported. You know what they do? They come up to me when I'm speaking, is they say, I feel guilty for that. I feel bad that nothing bad's happened to me. And I'm like, what? We have to have role models for people who have goodness and great parents and light and love. We have to have role models. Please sing to the high heavens about that there can be love, that there can be goodness, that there can be a feeling of worth and enough in every family. We need that role model. But they feel guilty for that. They feel guilty for having a good life. And I say, stand up, be a role model. Now, I don't know about you. Did anybody ever have a really bad day in their life? Like really, like a sucky, like you could go like, this day sucked. Anybody? Like, no, like you didn't have a sucky? Okay, thank you. Yeah, no, you had a sucky day? You had a sucky day? Okay, yes, oh, thank you. You had a sucky day? You know it? You know your sucky day? Okay, good. Well, I had a really sucky day. And I'm going to share a little bit about it. It's my day of horror and my day of tragedy and my day of pain and my day that I thought my life would end. So, like I said earlier, I didn't come from a healthy, loving family. I didn't come from two parents loving on me, caring for me, right? My mom loved me. I knew my mom loved me. But my dad, well, he was a different story. And it was Father's Day, and my parents were in the middle of getting divorced. And my father was coming out to take us to Sunday brunch. And I don't know about you, but I grew up in a little tiny town in Upper Michigan, 365 inches of snow a year. Yes, I said 365 inches of snow a year. 2 years ago, it was 385. 385 inches of snow a year, that's correct. And we don't have snow days because you get your butt and go to school, no matter what, right? So we grew up in this little town. So we had me and my two sisters and my two parents, that's 5 people. We didn't go out to eat because that's expensive. So the fact that he was taking us out to Sunday brunch was extra special. So my mom made me a new dress. My mother sewed all my clothes, and I was a little white dress with a little scarf with black polka dots on it, and I thought it was Barbra Streisand. For the younger people, that's Beyonce. And I'm fluffing up my mom's hairdo in her bathroom, and she's got a puffed, beehive hairdo. She's putting on her rose-colored lipstick. My dad walks in, come on, because that's what dads do. My two sisters are fighting it out, trying to get ready. And me and my mom walk out. My dad again is like, come on, come on, come on. So me and my mom start walking out with my dad. My dad says he's got to get his coat from the car. My sisters are in the bathroom now, fighting it out. One bathroom, 800 square feet. So me and my mom, my dad start walking out. My dad opens his trunk. And I notice that he is not grabbing a coat, but he is grabbing a gun. And he starts screaming at my mother, you made me do this, you made me do this, and he fires. Now, I'm 14 years old, and I start screaming, Dad, what are you doing? What are you doing? Stop, Dad, what are you doing? And he cocks the gun again, and he points it at me. And I believe I'm next. And he blinks, and I blink, and he blinks, and I blink. And then my mother, already with one bullet in her, literally with her last breath, sees that gun in my face and screams out, no, don't. And my father, with that bullet in the chamber, realizes my mother's alive, points the gun again and shoots her a second time. My father then cocks the gun again, drops to his knees and shoots himself. And in the course of less than 2 minutes, I was the sole witness of my father murdering my mother and committing suicide. Now, I don't know how you'd respond, but this is how I responded. It must be my fault. I was the only one that could have stopped it physically. I didn't kick my father. I didn't jump in front of my mother. I just yelled, stop, Dad, stop. I did nothing heroic that day. Nothing heroic that day. So for the next 20 years, I blamed myself. My parents were dead because of me. And it's basically split into two. The outside, anybody experience this, that your outside is one way and your inside's another? And that's how I live. My outside, straight A student, got a scholarship to college. No, I'm fine. No, I'm fine. No, I'm fine. No, I'm good. I'm good. Good, I'm good. Yep, good. But inside, not so good. Started drinking, got 3 DUIs, tried to kill myself 3 times. And on my 3rd suicide attempt, I realized something. I'm not dying. And if I'm not dying, I better figure out a way to live. Now, this was 20 years after they died. 20 years of my life was spent. 20 years of my life was spent in guilt and shame, and I'm not enough. At that 20-year mark, that's when I found my way to agape, crawled practically there. Couldn't hear the word God yet because I thought God was punishing me for my parents' death. I thought, God, this was my fate. I guess I deserve this, right? Deserve this. So when I first started coming to church, I couldn't hear the word God. I just changed it to spirit and light. I just changed it to anything but God because God, I knew, must be really mad at me. And it was when I started going to agape, when I started to surrender to spirit, and then when I really understood fear, is when I set myself free. So just ask yourself right now, are you holding on to something? Are you holding on yourself something that you're punishing yourself for still to this day? Are you holding on to something that you're punishing yourself for? Keeping as a light, like, well, I could do it, but this but. Now, maybe you've even thought you forgave yourself. Maybe you forgave other people, but it still gnaws at you. Anybody have anything that they still kind of hang on to a little bit? Thank you for your bravery. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for your bravery. And so this month is zeal. And we're talking about the brain. And we're talking about fear. And what I want you to take away from this talk as I'm starting to close is this. That all of those thoughts that do not serve you are just fear, trying to keep you safe. And it doesn't know you have resilience. It doesn't know you have zeal. It doesn't know you have God. It doesn't know. And it's there to protect you. It loves you. Fear loves you. I want you to hear that. Fear loves you. It just has a different purpose than love, right? Love is about expansion, light, growth. Fear is safety. So I just want you to think about today, like what do you want to What do you want to lead with? What do you want to say to fear when it comes up again? When you find yourself procrastinating or overwhelmed or anxious and you actually believe that's your fault, actually believe that you're the problem. I want to teach you a little technique I want you to talk back to fear. I'm going to give you a little tool to talk back to fear. So when fear starts telling me you're not good enough, you don't know what you're doing, whatever that is. Does everybody know what fear says to them? Does everybody know what their negative thoughts are? You know what your negative thoughts are? Yeah, we know what our negative thoughts are. We know what they are. Well, the next time a negative thought comes up, this is what I want you to do. First of all, I want you to identify it as fear. I don't want you to identify it as you. I want you to start separating yourself from fear. Fear is there to protect you, but it is not who you are. We know this. We know this. It's not who you are, but it's there to keep you safe until you take that job over yourself. Until you say, got it. So the next time that negative thought goes through, I want you to say the following. You're not good enough. Well, you know what? You might be right. And I'm going to go do this anyway. You're going to fail. Yep, you might be right. That's right, I might. But I'm going to go do it anyway. Well, you're going to regret it. Yep, I might regret it. You're right, but I'm going to go do it anyway. Never fight with fear. Validate it and say, yep, you might be right, and then you move forward with where you want to go, where Spirit's leading you, where your soul is aching to go. Because until you hear fear, it will just get louder. Until you name it and see it, you will actually think it's you. You will get confused, just like I did for most of my life. I was confused. I thought it was me. I thought there was something wrong with me. But this is what I know. I don't get overwhelmed or anxious or procrastinate. All of these are fears without my core fear just blossoming. So I'd love you to repeat after me. Let's take a nice deep breath as we close. Nice deep breath. Let's do it together. I am willing to own the truth. That Spirit is who I am. I am the essence of God itself. I am light. I am love. I have purpose. And I am here. Alive. With zeal. And so anytime fear tries to whisper to me, I will thank it and say, thank you for loving me. And I got this. I got this. I've got God, and we got this. Thank you for loving me, fear. Take a nice deep breath. Fear is not the enemy. It's part and parcel of who we are. And you get to decide to listen or to take back your power. To know the light is more true than any thought you have. To know your spirit is more alive than any fear. And to know that fearless spirit is already within you. It is who you are. You will have fear. It's part of being human. It's part of our neurobiology. I always say if people say they never have fear, well, either one, they're, maybe Mahatma Gandhi, right? Maybe. But we're human. And as we embrace our humanity, as I say, the more you embrace your humanity, the more divine your experience. Don't run from it. Run to it. And allow Spirit to use it. So with that, in deep gratitude, I say, and so it is. So it is. Thank you. Thank you.